It's time to be Tuesday. Alright, welcome to Tubi Tuesday, and today we are taking a look at Sidekicks starring Chuck Norris. So, yes, it also stars Jonathan Brandis, I forgot his name, Bo Bridges, Julia Nixon, and Mako. So, yes, it's about this kid named Barry, played by Jonathan Brandis, who likes to fantasize about, fighting bad guys with Chuck Norris. I was going to do that the whole time. And, like, the first one is your standard, they're dressed as ninjas, and they're fighting off bad guys type of thing. But then, as we get introduced to more characters throughout the film, like the teacher, played by Julia Nixon, and later Joe Piscopo plays Stone, the leader of the Stone dojo. And so they become villains, and then, like, the teacher, or the coach, like, the Stone becomes a villain, and the teacher becomes a victim. And then the coach, the gym teacher, he becomes a villain in one of the things. And then, also there's one where, like, he's got a thing for Winnie from the Wonder Years. Like, it's the actress who plays her, but she's basically the same character because she's friend-zoning him like she did to Kevin, bitch. Anyway, yeah, and it's not till he whips this other guy's ass. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" She's like, "Going to the zoo." "Can I go with you?" "Oh, now you want him after you see how awesome he was, right?" "Sure, now you want him." But anyway, so he wants to learn karate, so that's when his dad, played by Bo Bridges, takes him to the Stone Dojo. Stone is a prick who, hates Chuck Norris because apparently they have some kind of rivalry. And he's a prick, and then he doesn't allow him to train there. And he's like, Barry's like, karate's about discipline and stuff. He's like, "Oh, you believe in these blank tool, kid?" Look, Joe Piscopo is the right kind of crazy for this film, alright? He is nuts. Especially in the fantasies that the kid has. The kid has a lot of fantasies. There's even one thing where he's trying to climb the ropes, and he gets stuck, and he fantasizes that Chuck Norris is on the rope next to him, and it helps him climb. So, the teacher takes him to meet her uncle, played by Mako, who gonna teach him karate, right? So, yeah, so his, remind you, he is an asthmatic kid, right? So his training regimen is for him to walk to school from now on, and back from school from now on, and after a week, run to school. He has asthma. He cannot run. The asthma thing kind of goes away towards the end of the film, but, like, he does have an asthmatic attack. He ends up in the hospital. He does this weird rub thing on his chest, and then he's fine the rest of the film, I guess. And like I said, the fantasies are about rescuing a teacher, but after a while, he trains. He learns the nunchucks and stuff like that. And yes, I quoted Michelangelo, "A fellow chucker, eh?" Because you gotta quote Michelangelo when you talk about nunchucks, right? Right? So, then after Winnie, I'm gonna call her Winnie because that's what you're gonna call her. After she, finally decides she wants him, or she likes him or whatever, she's like, he asked her out earlier in the film, she's like, "I like you, just not in that way," because she's played by Danica, because she's, Danica McKellar, who played Winnie, and Winnie was always friend-zoning poor defensive Kevin. All he wanted was your love, bitch. But here, as soon as he kicks was it Cellini? And as soon as he kicks his ass, she's like, "Oh, can I go to the zoo with you?" It's like, now you see he's a badass. And, this Cellini kid, shows up and he challenges him to a karate tournament. Now, let's get this straight. Awkward kid is bullied, so he gets trained by old Asian man, and then competes in tournament. Why does that sound so familiar to me? Oh yeah, that's the Karate Kid. They kind of follows that template, sure. But they get to the tournament. And when they get to the tournament, they find, it's a team tournament. So you have the uncle, Mako, the teacher, and him. But they find out it's got to be a 4-person team. So I wonder who they could get to be the 4th. And wouldn't you know it, just as they find out they need a 4th team, who should walk in but Chuck Norris? Yes, and Mako just walks up to him. The teacher gives some kind of talk that we don't see, and Chuck Norris joins the team. Yep. Joins the team, and they have several segments. There's this weird dance thing the teacher does that she showed Bo Bridges earlier in the film. We'll get to all the minor stuff later, but Mako breaks bricks, and, Barry does the chucks, and then you give an actual karate tournament with Chuck Norris doing that, and he has to face Piscopo at the end. He beats his ass, he kicks his ass, and then in the end, Piscopo's had enough. So you know what? You want to get? He takes his little top of his gi off, and he's like, "Ooh," and just gets kicked in the face. Yeah. And so then it comes down to the two dojos, of course. The Frying Dragon, which is the name of the restaurant that Mako owns in this film, versus the Stone Dojo. And of course, it's Cellini versus Barry, and it's brick breaking. So you get the first one. And Cellini breaks the bricks. 8 bricks, right? It's 7 bricks. 7 bricks. And then, Barry does it, breaks the bricks. He says his hand, stings. And then they go for 8 bricks, but then Cellini's like, 1 more. 9 bricks. So he goes and he breaks all the bricks but 1. So now Barry has to break 9 bricks, which he does, but first added help, I guess, Mako sets the things on fire. On fire. What? First he almost kills the kid of asthma attack, and now he sets the bricks on fire. Well, and what I don't get is, he does that and no one puts the fire out. So, yes, and then at the end he's talking to Chuck Norris, and the movie ends with the kid finding a magazine. So, now we're going to go through some of the talking points here. Some of the things that I noticed going through this film is that they don't show everything. So, they set up that they're going to have a dinner with the teacher and her uncle. They're like, okay, we're going to go to dinner, and then it cuts. And it's like, oh, that was a good dinner. Did you notice my uncle stopped using chopsticks halfway through the meal? And I'm like, no, because we didn't see the meal. They just cut away from it. And then, they cut to them, and, they cut to them, and they're talking about dough or whatever, and she comes running in, Uncle, there's these bikers out here. I'm like, wait, what? Where did they come from? They didn't show them coming in, they're just there. So he's gonna come out and act drunk and bash their heads in, I guess. Chuck Norris fantasies, while cool, they happen way too much. There's too much Chuck Norris in this Chuck Norris movie that's not even about Chuck Norris. I wonder who the director was. Oh yeah, Aaron Norris. Chuck Norris's brother. Yeah, that's why he was in it. He's not even supposed to be the star of this film. But, there he is. I can't remember the name. Jonathan Brandis is the star of this film. And Chuck Norris gets a lot of screen time in this for not being, real or the main character. He might be real. We'll get to that. The training montages are not as good as the Karate Kid because it has generic training montage music. But it's still cool. Yes, they do the thing with the nunchucks where he hits himself in the nuts because you gotta do that gag, right? There's also a sort of love interest thing between the dad and the teacher that goes nowhere. They seem to be flirting, but it doesn't really go anywhere. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. And like I said, the girl, Winnie, whatever her name is in this, she doesn't want to be with him, but then he starts kicking other guy's asses. Oh, she wants to be with him now. Tease. Oh, now you have something to gain from it, right? Right? So, my final thing, the talking point here, is the tournament itself. You need a 4-person tournament. Okay, Chuck Norris shows up. Okay, the guy that thing doesn't believe them, but then Chuck Norris shows up. Okay, now, the end of the film, I didn't mention this, but mention it now. The end of the film has him talking to Chuck Norris on the bench. He gets up and walks over to his dad, but he turns around, and Chuck Norris is just gone, and the magazine is left sitting there. Now, this is a debate people have amongst this film. Is Chuck Norris real? Was the real Chuck Norris ever actually there? Was it in his head? My answer is yes. Here's why. Chuck Norris was there, and he agrees to be a part of the team. He was there as a celebrity guest because he fought Piscopo. That was real. He interacted with the dad, Mako, and the teacher. That was real. And he was there, he took part, he did his thing, and he left. He left after his part of the tournament was done. It was all up to Barry. Barry didn't need him anymore. And so once Barry completed, the Chuck Norris he talks to on the bench is in his head. Not the real Chuck Norris. There are 2 different Chuck Norrises in this film. The one in his fantasies and the one that's actually there. The one that shows up at the tournament and is there until he fights Piscopo, through the fight with Piscopo, is the real Chuck Norris. Everything before that and everything after that is in his head. It's the only thing I can justify is Chuck Norris that we see in the tournament is real, or else they wouldn't be able to fight in the tournament. And then the Chuck Norris he talks to on the bench is in his head. Chuck Norris came, did what he was supposed to, and left. He was done. That's my take on it. Anyway, it's not official, but, it's my take on it. So, yeah, this movie wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be worse. It's 90s cheese, but it's pretty good. It came out in 1992. I think Jonathan Brandis does a good job. Still got the wide-eye thing that he does from the Neverending Story, but he's better in here than the Neverending Story. I think his best performance is in Stephen King's It, but he's still good here too. Nice to see Julian Nixon, from Rambo Part 2, First Blood Part 2. Bob Bridges was always fun to see in the movie. Mako, of course, is great. He's kind of wacky in this film. It's kind of cool. Seemed wacky stuff. May he rest in peace. And Chuck Norris is fantastic. He's Chuck Norris. He plays himself. You can't get wrong playing yourself, right? I gave this movie a 7 out of 10. It was enjoyable. I liked it. Not bad. So what are your thoughts on Sidekicks? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, one more time. I chuck the